Did I pin myself? I think I did. Now I did. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our September Styles workshop. Today we're going to be playing the wonderfully beautiful, amazing song that is September by Earth, Wind, and Fire in a few different styles. We're going to start with a nice strum play-along version to lock in the groove and get comfy with some of these funkier chords. And then we're going to find ways to incorporate some finger picking, maybe a little bit of percussion, and then we're going to end it off with a very cool, groovy chord melody arrangement of September. So I'm going to start off by giving you a little taste teaser of the chord melody, and then we'll start to dive into this one, starting with the chords. So here we go. I have my, yeah, okay. And we'll stop for there. But we got some very fun, funky chords going on in there. We got cool strumming pattern, cool groove, some really cool chord shapes that once we get to the chord melody part, same shape but kind of moved around into different spots on the fretboard, which makes for some interesting chord voicings, like this guy you may have seen me jump up to a few times. So what's cool about this one, as you could also notice, is that it's pretty repetitive. So the groove repeats throughout, whether we're doing the strum version or the chord melody. So once you get your fingers aligned to where they need to go, you just kind of rinse and repeat for the whole song. I found that as I was arranging this one, at first it felt a little tricky. Once I figured out what placements I liked, I was like, oh, this might be a little tricky to jump between. But because it was so repetitive, me just kind of practicing it all the way through, just the nice rinse and repeat made it feel a bit comfier after a little bit. So that's what's cool about this one. It's a little funky, but once you nail it, you just keep doing it. And those are really good ways to practice stuff. So we're going to start with our playing along sheet here, and we're going to dive into the bass chords that we need for this song. So head on over to your September play along here, and we're going to run through the chords at the top of the sheet, just right next to September there. So we start things off with a nice D major 7. Bar chord tip for you. I like to bar with this side of my index as opposed to the very flat side of my index finger, so more of this angle. So the way to kind of find that right angle is, first thing you want to do is plop your index finger squishy side down, flat onto the fret, and then you just kind of turn your finger a little bit towards the headstock. So nail angled very slightly towards the headstock, and you'll be resting on the strings with that side of your index finger. It's a bit of a harder surface than the squishy, fleshy tip side of your index, so that will make sure that you have a nice, solid surface to bar over the strings with. You could start by getting that foundation set up with just the straight across bar, and then once that feels cool, you can add your ring finger to that 4th fret on the A string. Because of this shape as well, you have the option to add the middle finger to rest on top of the index if you would like. But either way, D major 7. Very cool chord. Now, our next chord, C sharp minor 7, I play it a very specific way that I would kind of recommend you try out, even if it looks a little weird. So I like to play C sharp minor 7 like this. So I want you to think of it as like the same mini bar feeling when you do a B flat chord. That's the kind of angle I'm using the very tip of my index finger with to press down on G and C. Now you can angle your wrist out a little bit more this way so that you make sure that the E string still remains open. So mini bar on G and C with my index finger tip and my ring finger on that second fret A. This is going to come back in a little bit, so that's why I recommend this kind of squishy shape here. So D major 7 to that C sharp minor 7. Then we have D. Play as normal. Nothing weird going on with the D. And then F sharp minor. This is for just our regular groove at the top. And for most of the song, actually. So take a moment, run through those chords, get them to feel nice and comfy, or as comfy as they can. D major 7 to C sharp minor 7 to D. You could go back to C sharp minor 7 if you're matching the progression of the groove, and then F sharp minor. And always practice end to beginning, so you do F sharp minor back to that D major 7. And what you're thinking about as you practice switching between these chords is not only where are my fingers moving to, but where is my wrist relative to all these shapes. So when I do my bar, my wrist tends to drop below my fretboard here. And then for the rest of the chords, my wrist is kind of kicked out to the side. Give you guys another minute to get comfy with those chords. If anyone is feeling like the mini bar on the C sharp minor 7 feels a little bit weird, what I recommend is, because you're doing more of like a kind of weird squish here, trying to get these two to sound clear while leaving that E string open, you can almost shoot for, it'll sound funny, but like the middle of these two strings with your finger placement. Like you don't need to start, like you might find that you're actually squishing a little more on the G, and then it's harder to get the C because you're focused on not getting that E to ring out. But I find I almost place my index finger like kind of in the middle of those, the G and the C strings, and then I just kind of do a little, like a squish. And that makes sure that I have plenty of room for my E string to still ring out clear. You could also adjust your wrist position if you need to. If you find that you're a little bit this way, and it's harder to get that E string out, I find if you kick your wrist out a little bit, it helps with that too. All right, let's run through these chords together. I'll yell them out and we'll do one strum each. So let's start on our D major 7. Then we'll go to C sharp minor 7. Then to D. Back to C sharp minor 7. And then to my F sharp minor. Chords feeling cool? Any questions about any weird chord finger position-y things, or are we all good? Cool. Okay, so let's talk about this strumming groove now. Quite funky, but cool. So, the way that I like to write most of my strum patterns out, but especially this one, is our black strums, or the black arrows, are going to be the ones that we strike the strings on. And then the dotted gray arrows, or my ghost strums, as I kind of like to call them, show you that you're not going to strike the strings on that strum, but you want to continue to move your hand in that direction. What that's going to do is it's going to maintain your strumming coordination because it's very syncopated. If we just kind of wrote it as like down, up, 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 down, up, up, down, it might be really hard to kind of feel that groove, like with just a series of like ups and commas, which are usually used to show kind of a syncopated rhythm. So by writing out the full eighth note subdivision of the strums with those ghosty arrows, kind of still gives you a frame of reference to where your rests are and how much time is actually in between those strums. So I'm going to practice this on just one chord. I'm just going to pick my D major 7 because it's the first chord. And I'm just going to lock in this strum pattern again because it is a little funky. So we have, and I'm going to count this out in my eighth note counting. 1 and 1 and 4. Or if you like directions, down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. Now, if both of those, whether the number counting or the directions, just made you kind of go like, blah, 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 I don't really think like in numbers or in directions. How else can I think about this? If you kind of hum the general groove of this song, like if you know how the intro goes and you just kind of hum it, bump, 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 dun, dun, dun. Like if someone said, sing September, dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun. Guess what? That's the strumming rhythm. Dun, 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 dun. So if that kind of helps you to scat it out based on how you remember the rhythm of the song instead of the directions or the number counting, you can also lean into that. It's a very kind of auditory way to hear the rhythms and transcribe it in a strumming pattern sense. But especially because this one is so syncopated and it takes up the span of 2 measures, it kind of could be tricky to count because it's a lot of just ands, right? 1 and 1 and 4. It's like, wait, but you did a lot and you only kind of said 1 and 4. So with this intro and this groove, if you can kind of hear the song in your head, dun 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 dun, that's our strum rhythm. Down, up, 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 down, up, down, down, up, 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 down, up, down. So I encourage you to kind of play with it any of those 3 ways. If you really like numbers, that's cool. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's cool. Or if you like directions, that's also cool. Down, up, 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 down, up, down. But even see how there I kind of like hummed the song while I was doing the direction. So a few different ways to play with it. I kind of like to just refer back to the song and hear the groove of the rhythm and then apply that to how I'm doing my strum pattern. So try it on just the muted strings here just to get the strum comfy, or pick one of the chords, pick your D major 7. And just kind of practice doing your strum in any which way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. Or dun 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 dun, yeah, dun 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 dun. kind of clicks. I do a mix of all three, which isn't really helpful. Sometimes I think of the numbers, sometimes I hum along to the song, or sometimes I just lean into my strums. So, whichever way makes the most sense. I'll do it slow, and I'm going to count the rhythm out, so feel free if you want to try it along with me. Jump back in when I get to the front, or the start of the pattern. That's cool. So I'm going to go down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. Here's the beginning. Down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Cool. I know it seems a little nuts, but in some weird way, it may feel more comfy once we start to add the chords now. So we're going to try that. Any questions on the strum groove before we add the chords? Or are we feeling okay? Feeling groovy? Cool. Okay, so now you'll see in our groove, we have up above certain strums is where our chords are going to change. So this is our groove, chords for the groove, mixing it all together. So we're starting on that D major 7 for the first two strums, our down, up. Then I have my down, go strum, and on these down strums where you're not striking the strings, I would encourage you to use that time to move to your next chord shape. So if I look at my first 4 strums there, right, my 1 and 2 end, I'd have down, up, up. And notice on that down strum is when I made that change to my C sharp minor 7. That's when I moved my fingers to get there. Down, up, up. And this is going to be a theme for pretty much all of our ghosty down strums that we have. I want to use that amount of time to actually make the switch with my fretting hand. Down, up, would be my first move. Then we start to move a little bit quicker after the C sharp minor 7 when I get to beats 3 and 4. I have down, up on my D, and then another ghosty down strum, back to C sharp minor 7. So my first 4 beats of my groove are going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'll do that a little zoomed in so that you could see my fingers and where they're moving. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Try to move back so it's not so blown out. There we go. One and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So really use those down strums, like I said, to make that move on your fretting hand, to move to that next chord shape. Don't wait for the strum where you need the chord to come to go, I gotta get there. You can use these down strums that you're not striking the strings to move. So that's the first half of the groove where we have more of the movement. And then the second half, we kind of just chill out on C sharp minor 7 and then we see that F sharp minor. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and my second half, staying on the C sharp minor 7, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So, again, on beat 2 of my second half of my groove, we have that ghosty down strum. So I'm using that time to get from my C sharp minor 7 to that F sharp minor. And we specifically end on a down strum on beat 4 to help us get back into the D major 7 at the top. So I didn't give us a up strum on the end of 4 at the end so that we have a little bit of time to restart. So if I do the whole groove nice and slow, it would look like this. We would have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and one more time, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay. A little bit of a lot going on, right? To put it lightly. One and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So because this one has a lot of moving parts, I would recommend practicing it the way that we broke that down. Get those chords really comfy. Practice bouncing back and forth between doing this little mini bar thing for the C sharp minor 7, going into the D, and then back and forth, and just overall. And then when it comes to practicing the strum pattern, 2 ways. If you want to practice the whole thing through, sticking on one chord to get the overall feel of the strum, you could do that. Or if it's actually a little bit easier to incorporate the chords right on top of it right away to get a feel of the total vibe, you could do that too. So if it actually helps to feel the C sharp minor 7 and the D as just the one down strums there, the one up strums, then you could totally practice it like that too. I like to kind of do the whole strum, I think, and then throw the chords on top of it, just because it gets my strumming hand a bit more comfy. But again, a few different ways to approach it. Now, if you thought, oh my god, what else is there to come? Because we just did this. Like, this is crazy. Well, I mentioned before that this song's pretty repetitive, right? So our verse is just that groove. Like, that's the whole verse chord progression. And the majority of the song, too. Not just verse 1. All of our verses are this groove. So once this settles and feels cool, you know the whole entire verse. The only thing that gets added is after you do this groove 3 times, you end on a G, and you just kind of strum a G out for 2 measures for your strum pattern of choice. I just kind of wing it. I just do I think just straight down and up strums for the G. I don't really do anything crazy because we have enough crazy stuff going on. So with our verse, I'll show you how this groove is incorporated. And this groove is also good for the intro as well. So we have... I'll play it a little slower. Do you remember the 21st night of September? Love was changing the minds of pretenders while chasing the clouds away. Just kind of do whatever strum you want on G. Our hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing as we danced in the night. Remember how the the stars stole the night away. Little closer to the full speed so you can hear the groove in real time. Do you remember the 21st night of September? Love was changing the minds of pretenders. Forgot how to do it. While changing the clouds away. It's hard to sing with it. I will throw that out there. Our hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing. As we danced in the night, remember how the stars stole the night away. Cool. Shake out your fretting hand if you need it. I know these chords can get a little crampy sometimes. Thank you. Thank you, Darla. I appreciate it. The singing sounds cool with it. It is tough. Thankfully, the quicker part of the groove, that first half, we don't actually have to sing over top of that for the most part. We just kind of have, do you remember? So you can really focus on making those quick switches without having to worry about singing over it too much. So that's pretty cool. That's one benefit to that. But it is a little tricky. But the groove is just kind of too cool. I like it. I think it's fun. So take it really nice and slow for as long as you need. But as you can see, once that groove locks in, that's pretty much all of your verses for this one. And this groove is going to come back in our chord melody. So this groove is the kind of underlying groove. And then when we add the melody later, we just kind of shift up the fretboard a little bit. And then that becomes the new repetitive thing that we do. So we're definitely going to stem from this a little bit later. But let's talk about the chorus at the bottom here. So the chorus is a little bit different. We have some other things that we can kind of play around with in terms of our strumming groove. So we don't have to do the full strum groove from before, but we can still play around with this idea of a split strum or a split picking pattern. So what I call a split strum is when you have two chords that change in the middle of your strum pattern, where one starts the pattern and one ends it. And you practice keeping your strum pattern consistent while you change chords on the fretting hand. So we have two things to play around with here for this chorus that I thought were cool. We have a split strum, and then we also have a split picking, because I wanted to do it. So our chorus chords change a little bit here. I like to do different inversions of these chords just to make the chorus stand out a little bit more. So we do start on B minor 7, which is just our D major 7 without the ring finger, or just bar across the 2nd fret. Now for here, I like to do bar chord E7, which is going to be bar the 4th fret, ring middle finger on the 5th fret of the A string. 4, 4, 4, 5 is that shorthand notation above the chorus there. Then for C sharp minor 7, in the chorus context, it'll be a straight across bar on the 4th fret. Then we go to this really cool F sharp minor 7, which is going to be 2, 4, 2, 4. If this feels a little crazy, you can do regular F sharp minor if you want. That's okay. But I like the sound of the F sharp minor 7 in the chorus. I like 7s, actually. I guess they do. They wrote it with a lot of 7s, so Earth, Wind, and Fire also enjoys a good 7. So, our chorus, we have bar straight across the 2nd fret, bar 4, middle finger on 5th fret A, for E7, get rid of the middle finger, bar straight across the 4th fret for C sharp minor 7, and then our very cool F sharp minor 7, 6, 6, 5, 4 for the F sharp minor. I'm into that. I like that, Darla. Because you could just leave the 4th fret barred and make a D minor shape with your ring, pinky, and your middle finger. You could also jump the bar all the way up to the 9th fret and bar straight across the 9th fret if you wanted to keep the straight across bar going. You'd be a little high, but that's alright. F sharp minor there is cool. Jump it all the way up. Or there. I encourage you to play with the voicings here. If you know a different way to play any of them, go for it. That's what I like to do there. So once those chords feel cool, let's talk about our split strum here. So our strum pattern overall is going to be down, up, chuck, up, down, up. So that's our strum pattern that we are going to split between two chords. So lock that in for a minute. Pick a chord. There's like a hair on my face. I don't know where it is. Down, up, chuck, up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and. Now, if you printed it in color, you'll notice that the down strum on beat 1 and the up strum on the end of beat 2 are pink. So this is to tell you this is where each chord is going to come into play. So we're going to first split the strum between B minor 7 and E7. And on those pink strums is where your chords are going to start. So we're going to start on our B minor 7 for that first half. Down, up, chuck. And on the chuck, kind of like how we utilized the ghost down strum to make switches in the earlier groove, on the chuck is where I'm going to switch to my E7 chord, which is going to begin on the end of 2. Up, down, up. And finish out that split strum. So that would be down, up, chuck, up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 4 and. And we'll split the strum in those same spots for the next two chords, C sharp minor 7 and F sharp minor. One and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And again, chord voicings of your choice here. If you actually do like regular E7, which I accidentally did before, that's cool. But if you, like I said, sometimes I like to let the chorus, I like to change the inversion so it sticks out a little bit more. You could totally do the higher up versions too. So it's up to you. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Baaa-deee-yaa, say do you remember? Baaa-deee-yaa, dancing in September. Baaa-deee-yaa, never was a cloudy day. Same thing here, end on G. Baaa-deee-yaa, say do you remember? Baaa-deee-yaa, dancing in September. Baaa-deee-yaa, never was a cloudy day. And then if you went back into the verse, our hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing as we danced in the night of September. How the stars stole the night away. So, slightly different grooves, right? Or yay! Super fun. The picking alternative here is you're going to change on the same splits that you did for the strum pattern. So you're still starting on beat 1, obviously, and the next chord is coming in on the end of 2. So we're doing a little bit of faux claw hammer, we're gonna call it, like super duper faux claw hammer, because we're not really fast, but we're like mixing certain small little picks with some strums. So here's how this split picking pattern is gonna sound. So on my picking hand here, I'm going to pluck C with my thumb. Then I'm going to pluck E with my index finger. And notice when I pluck E, my hand comes up a little bit, right? That's because my next strum that I have is going to be a down strum. So I kind of like to counterbalance the the down strum that's coming by moving my hand up after I pluck. Because if I'm using my index finger to pluck the E string, I am plucking the string upwards, right? So, pluck down on C, up on E, then a down strum, and then quick change to your next chord to land that next up strum. Pluck, pluck, down, up, down, up, pluck, pluck, down, up, down, up. Pluck, pluck, down, up, C, E, down, up, down, up. For some reason, I like the split picking with the lower chord voicings, and I like the chucky strum with the higher chord voicings. So that's why it's also cool to play around with different versions of the chord shapes that you know, just to see what kind of hits a little different. I find when I'm plucking, I like the lower sound. Baaa-deee-yaa, say do you remember? Baaa-deee-yaa, dancing in September. Yeah, I think that kind of... You could do it higher, though. When you do your plucking, make sure to keep it nice and small down here, because you're going to go into your strums. And same thing with the strums. Keep them, especially towards the end of the pattern, when you know you have to come back to the plucking, keep your strums relatively nice and small near the fretboard. So don't full send that last up strum up here is what I mean. Like, don't be like, whoa, and then, I gotta pick C, but my hand is, hey, it's up here. So, on like your last up strum, keep it nice and small so you can get back into your plucking. So, these are the two main parts to the song. Even the interludes, the ba-doo, 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 da-doo, that's gonna be your chorus. And then you go back to that verse. So, these are our two main grooves for the song. And in a play-along sense, this is great. We have two really funky grooves to play around with and to practice switching those chords around, those very cool sevens and stuff. Now, like I mentioned before, my chord melody take on it is rooted in this. So I would start with this play along, even if you're more of a finger picker and you like the chord melody stuff. It is a very strummy chord melody, so it's going to feel similar to this. So to get the roots and the base of the groove and the chord progression down, I would start here. Now, we're going to go over some of the funkier stuff that I do in the chord melody version, so let's go and check out the chord melody. Now, if we look at our first line, looks pretty similar to our groove, right? Hey, that's more or less kind of what we were just doing. There might be one extra down strum thrown in on my D major 7 if you left it out and did the same, just did down up instead of down up down in the tab. Am I gonna hunt you down? No. Am I even gonna realize you're doing it? Also probably no. So that's okay. The one thing that is a little different, and this comes back to me suggesting you play C sharp minor 7 with this weird mini bar, is in measure 2. We have kind of a funky play on this F sharp minor here. So coming out of my C sharp minor 7, which I'm playing with this squishy little mini bar, I'm actually leaving that mini bar down. And I'm going to move my ring finger down a string, so it's on the 2nd fret of the E string, and I'm going to strum this up because this 1st fret on the G is my melody note that I want to emphasize. So I'm deliberately placing this chord on that up strum so that I really hear that 1st fret on the G. And then I end with F sharp minor at the end of measure 2. Once you add that middle finger for your F sharp minor there, if you want, it may be easier to just leave the squish down. Like you don't have to lift up if you don't want. I find that I keep it there, but that's totally up to you. If it feels like a lot to remember to, oh, I can unbar there and go to regular F sharp minor, then you could actually just leave it because the middle finger is just overtaking it. So that part, so I'll do measures 1 and 2. So coming from my C sharp minor 7, which I'm playing as this mini bar, again, moving that ring finger down a string to the 2nd fret E for that up strum, so I get this really cool F sharp minor. And then I'm adding my middle back to the 2nd fret G. So this is normal F sharp minor, but if you wanted to leave that squish there for just another beat or so, that's okay. Fast, funky few little pull-offs there in 6 and 7. That was one hell of a sentence. I can't believe I said it all at once without stuttering. 3, 3, 2 off, 2 off. I like to do that with my ring and my middle finger there. Pull-off tip. If your pull-offs sound really quiet and you can't figure out why, I was just talking about this in one of my lessons yesterday, a lot of people like to put hammer-ons and pull-offs kind of in the same boat in terms of like finger-style embellishments, but there is a big difference to the two of them. With a hammer-on, you're just putting your finger down on the string with force to get it to ring out. But a pull-off, you actually have to pull your finger off the string so that it plucks the next note. A lot of people think pull-offs, you just kind of lift your finger off the string as if it were the inverse of a hammer-on, but pull-offs serve as like a fretting hand way of actually plucking the strings. That's why it says pull off. You want to pull it off the string. New York accent coming out full time with off there. But you want to pull your finger off that string so it plucks it, instead of just lifting off the top like this. See how much quieter that is if I treated it as the inverse of the hammer-on versus if I actually pull it off the string. So notice my fingers are coming off the string that way instead of off the top. There's my pull-off tip. So make sure that you actually come off the string instead of off the top of the string, instead of just lifting off of it. Now, we're going to jump ahead a little bit to 11 and 12. So this is our groove with the melody now incorporated. Or we'll start at pickup into 11. So what? Okay. First part of that is our groove from the play along. Down, up, 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 with the same 3 chords: D major 7, C sharp minor 7, and that D. Down, down, up, up, up. Where we start to move is right here at the end of measure 11. So we got 4th fret on the G. which I like to do with my index finger because it helps to set up the bar that comes at the beginning of 12. The twin. So this whole entire phrase, actually, your index finger has had some contact with the G, right? Bar chord, mini bar chord, D chord, 4th fret G, and then a bar in 12. So have that kind of be like an anchor point for you as you're jumping around between these shapes. Always make sure your index finger is in somewhat contact with that G string. So we've ended on 12 here. We're barring that straight across. Now, I like to do 7 and 9 on the A with my ring and my pinky. Player's choice. Doesn't really matter too much. Those are just the fingers I like to use. Now right here comes the weird chord. This is a weird chord. We never really played F sharp minor like this before, but it's gonna feel pretty similar. So I'm doing a squish here, like our C sharp minor 7 on G and C. This time I'm on the 6th fret, and I'm playing the 7th fret on the E string with my middle finger. This is a really cool F sharp minor variation. If you wanted that A string to be really prominent. Now, I will say as a disclaimer, you can play it with individual fingers if you really do want to. I find that this song's kind of fast-paced, and whenever I played it with the individual fingers, I could never land this in time. Coming from the 7 and the 9 on the A string before it, I couldn't get my fingers individually there. So for me, it felt more comfy to do the mini bar up here as well. So I will throw that out there. You can play it individual, but I just kind of found that I couldn't land it. Maybe that's user error on my part, but I encourage you to try it out. So if I try just the first 4 notes there of 12, I start on my bar. Ring, pinky, little squish. And if you use your ring and your pinky for 7 and 9, you can have your middle and your index's job be get ready for that weird F sharp minor. That's the only thing they need to worry about, right? Because these two guys are like, we got you, bro. Bro, we got the 7 and the 9 for you, so you could just focus on that. Now notice what happened there. I used my thumb to strum the F sharp minor, and I didn't follow through to that A string right away. I kind of did it on a delay there. So, 21st night of... So strum down with your thumb, stop on the E string for that chord, and then have your thumb follow through to the A string for that open pluck. So you don't have to pluck these 3 and then pluck the A if you don't want. I kind of think the delayed thumb strum is a cool texture thing there. Then you'll come back over to the 4th fret on the A string with your ring finger because this repeats. Oop. And you'll work on the timing of the delayed thumb strum too. It takes a little bit. As I have just eloquently demonstrated. It'll take a little bit. Now, the only thing that changes slightly when we repeat this phrase, this first time we don't do it, but if you look ahead to 13 and 14, you'll notice that there's a slide. Whoa! So, the slide is not that crazy because it's still with your index finger on the G. So this goes with my earlier statement of your index is always going to be in contact with that G string somehow. So, if we look at 13, we have... Oh. So coming out of your D chord there, Your index is already on the 2nd fret. You'll pluck that 2nd fret and slide it up to 4. Now this is going to be an even slide, which means that we want 2 and 4 to still be worth the same amount, note value wise. This isn't what I like to colloquially call a oh shit slide, where you slide really fast to land on the 4th fret. Like, oh, that would be an oh shit slide. Because the idea is you meant to be on the 4th fret and you pluck it and you're on 2 and you go, oh shit, I gotta be on 4. So that's how I like to call those. This is not that. This is an even slide. We want both of those notes to be the same value. So here's 11 through 14, and you'll hear the slight differences in the riff, but overall it is the same. Few little variations there, the addition of the slide, and we start with a pluck of the A followed by the strum on the D major 7 instead of a down up, because we're adding in and emphasizing that melody a little bit. Our melody is that 4th fret on that A string, right? So by changing some of those strums to plucks, we're just highlighting it a little bit more in this chord melody context. But each phrase starts with our groove from before, so just some up strums on these funky moving chords. So that's why I said start over there and then start to take a look at this chord melody version. But as we continue forth, the slide stays and the slide stays, and the first pluck at the beginning of our phrase also stays. And for this chord melody version, when we go into our G strums, we're doing what I like to call offensive G. I have many fun names for stuff. Offensive G is G without the middle finger. And the way I like to think about it is you're going to flip me off when you play it. Now, you don't actually have to stick your middle finger up this far, but just for the fun of it, you can do it one time. You can flip me off. Offensive G. G without the middle. Gives it a little nicer, spacier sound because away. There's our melody note. So combined with our G, we get offensive G. So I'm going to play 11 through 18. I'm going to do it slow and zoomed in so you could see, you could watch all of my finger movements here. I'll do pickup into 11. So we get Do You Remember? And you go up to 4 at the end of 18. You don't go up to 3. Now, like I said, this one's nice and repetitive, right? So we kind of do the same thing over and over. You'll notice I did that about 3 times in a row. Now, when our groove repeats in 19 and 20, there's a very slight rhythm change. Otherwise, after that, 21 and on, it's back to normal. Because he just sings it slightly different this one time. We have, our hearts are ringing in the key that our souls were singing. What's different there? There's no D. No D chord, no. So after you do your D major 7, and you do your up strum on the C minor 7, C sharp, whatever, then you go right into your slide. And then from then on, the notes are similar, but the rhythm is just slightly different. So I'm going to play the first groove. So I'm just going to pull from 15 and 16 because it's right above. 15 and 16 versus 19 and 20. So you can hear the difference. Again, a little change, but just a slight rhythm difference there. So here's 15 and 16, or the main groove. Right? Now here's 19 and 20. Just a teensy tiny bit different. And it might not have sounded different as I played it. The difference is you strum that C sharp minor 7, and you can see it in the rhythm there. In 19, it lands on the end of 4 of the measure before instead of the downbeat of 16. I mean, of 20. So it would be... Let me look at what I'm doing. Versus... So again, we're just kind of shifting everything up by like half a beat. You can hear it when he sings it, that it comes at you a little bit faster. And then after that, it kind of goes back to normal. If you played the same thing right there, am I gonna know? No, I'm not gonna know! But I'm just crazy and I like to nail the rhythms exactly. But that's a me problem! So it's okay, it's up to you. Just pointing that out slightly different right there. If you catch the annotated version, you'll see that I've written that it's a little bit different, but it goes back to normal in 21. And then from 21 all the way through to 26, same groove as earlier. So I'm going to play the whole thing again, and I'm going to call out when it's coming up, and I want you to hear, you'll be able to hear that it's just a little bit different. So I'm going to play all that. I'm going to play 11, and I'm going to go all the way through 26. See if you can catch it. Did you catch it? Did you catch that it's a teeny bit off in 19 and 20? Just ever so slightly. But just to keep us on our toes as we're playing, they change it just a little bit. Again, am I going to know if you play it just the same as before another time? No, it's okay. But I think it's cool to grab how it's a little bit different. But it's up to you. I'm not going to know. But see how you've played that groove by that point like 6 or 7 times over? So it's really cool to just keep playing this one in the same way that you would practice kind of like a problem, or not a problem spot, but like a tricky spot, kind of like over and over to really nail it. For this one, you can kind of just keep playing the song over and over. Like, just play that section, because you're doing it about 4 times, however many times over in that section. So, kind of a cool way to practice doing the same thing. Instead of doing 2 measures, just actually play it, because you do it a lot. So, that's our verse groove there. And now our chorus kicks in at 27. And much like our chorus in the play along, we do the same thing about 3 times before we end on a G. So that is totally the case for our chord melody version of the verse. I mean, of the chorus here. So we start on that D major 7 that we have here, because guess what? The chord's B minor 7, but the melody note is the 4th fret on the A string, so it actually just turns out to be a D major 7 still. Baaa-deee-yaa. Now for this one, for the chord melody version, I'm choosing to do E7 with a modified 4th fret on the A string, and that's because in my strum along before, I did my E7 bar chord here. I need that 4th fret on the A string, And I still want it to sound... I would still want to get that kind of crunchy sound that E7 gives me. So that's why I've switched to the lower chord voicing with the modified A string note for here in the chord melody. Baaa-deee-yaa. And then I use my 4th fret bar for my C sharp minor 7, like I did before. But look how funny that is. The second strum of 28, there's that E7, right? So in this song, a lot of the melody is really close to the chord shapes, which is cool. But to create a little bit of... to create difference between, like, my bar chord E7 and the C sharp minor 7 without making it sound like the same exact chord, I've moved some of the voicings around. So sometimes with chord melody, you gotta get a little fancy with it to make sure that your chords kind of still sound different, especially if the chord tones are just that close together once you start to add the melody. So that's why we have a lower E7, and then we go up for that C sharp minor 7. But in a weird way, it's still a little E7-y because of where our vocal melody is. Say that you remember. Now here, we have a very specifically placed open A string note for our A there. To help us get back to here, to our weird little mini bar F sharp minor. Could you switch that for regular F sharp minor? Yeah, you could. Actually, no, you can't, because you need... Yeah, no. You can't. I was trying to give you an out, but I've shut the door in your face. Play the weird F sharp minor. Baaa-deee-yaa, say that you remember. Because that's our note. That 7th fret on the E. Remember. Oh, thank you for coming, Darla. I went a few minutes over. We were funking up. But yeah, so that groove in 27 and 28 now repeats for the rest of our chorus there. And then we end on a G like we did so before. So this one, like I said, lots of parts that repeat. So once you kind of practice that groove and it gets comfy, it's just a lot of rinse and repeat. So while it may seem scary to play through it, even if you're still working on the groove, just keep playing through it, because the sections repeat in our verses in 2-bar phrases, right? We kind of do over and over, and same thing for our chorus. So I encourage you to dive into this one full force and just practice all the sections because they repeat. And again, if you want to get just the foundation of the groove and the chords down, you can totally check out the play along version and then graduate to the chord melody. But this has been September Stylez. I hope you had fun playing this in a few different ways, whether with friends or instrumental here. And hopefully you have some chords and strums ready to go for tomorrow, the famous day, if you remember, the 21st night of September. So you need it for tomorrow night. So there you go. Thank you for joining me on this lovely September Saturday. I hope all is well where you are. And just keep strumming and making music and having fun. And that's what it's about. So take care. Songs on the fly next weekend. Drop some songs in our chat for the spinner wheel. We'll see what we pick this month. And I hope to see you there. Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye.